just know that I've spoken personally with many colleagues in other agencies and within CIA. And when I get to know them, and we talk about our hobbies and whatnot, and I mentioned that, I go to UFO conferences, and then that opens up that avenue of discussion. And in fact, I think it was Mr. Moultrie who talked about, oh yeah, I went to these conferences.
Sci-fi conference.
So, that's an indication that here was this gentleman. I know where he worked at CIA, and I know what his professional job was at CIA.
Moultrie, you knew Moultrie at CIA?
I don't know him personally, but I knew what he did.
Oh, he was
And
CIA, Moultrie.
he was originally, I think he was naval intelligence, then went into CIA in the information operations and information warfare areas of CIA. And I can reveal that it was something called the Clandestine Information Technology Office and the Information Operations Center. And then from there, he went to NSA in the SIGINT Directorate, and then he ran the National Security Operations Center, the NSA watch office, if you will, that for 24/7, every second of every day, they're taking in all of this SIGINT data from all of these sensors that the U.S. government has, and then, parsing it out. And that's his background before he was appointed to be the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. And so even at that level, he says, I've been to UFO conferences. And Jim Semivan, when he shared his experiences at CIA, and he was told, oh, you should talk to this other officer. He goes to UFO conferences, and it wasn't me, it was someone else. And I went to UFO conferences with my good friend together. And so, I mean, there's a lot of interest there. And I was an administrator of a discussion database called the Users Group, was mostly about technology and the application of technology. This is in the 90s, when the internet was nascent and people were home building their own computers. And that was that unofficial database. And I took the opportunity as administrator to bring up some of these topics, like remote viewing and UFOs and artifacts, anomalies on the moon and Mars. And that's when I got a deluge of phone calls and emails to me privately about what they knew. So I knew that, there was a lot of interest in remote viewing, that it was a real program, that we have encountered craft. That one gentleman who was a Navy officer before joining CIA said, yes, I was on a cruiser, USS Boston, in the off of the North Vietnamese coast, and we were fighting off this UFO. And so, I mean, all these little bits and pieces of information come, and people are talking about the Anunnaki and, Sidonia. I mean, all of this coming through within CIA, which unfortunately is not FOIable because it's not an official document that can be FOIA'd. And so in that sense, I knew that there was a lot of interest of just me personally contacting these folks who were also had interests, who might have been hobbyists. And during my security reinvestigations that were occurred every 5 years, the first one occurred after 3 years, and then every 5 years since. They would ask me, Mr. Ramirez, what are your hobbies? And I go, I'm interested in researching UFOs and going to ET conferences. And I'm a big fan of Coast to Coast AM with George. That time it was with Arbel, and they would just dutifully write it down. There was no like, what? None of that. Just write it down. Okay. And this Chase Brandon, who wrote his novel Cryptos Conundrum, Chase Brandon wrote about this higher consciousness aspect of everything, and him having familiarity with the topic because he saw the actual Roswell files of CIA. It's the only CIA officer that actually stated in public, yes, there are Roswell files. Yes, I saw them. Yes, there was a craft that was non-terrestrial, that looked non-terrestrial. And yes, there were beings recovered because he saw the pictures of the bodies that were not human. And here's an officer that said, well, I can't reveal this outright. I'll make it a novel. And he was interviewed by George Nuri. And then he said, read my novel. It's all in there. it's read behind the lines. What I wrote in the novel some of that will be disclosed in the future. And one of the things he disclosed was the fact that the Navy has encountered these craft under the water with submarines and through aircraft flying off of aircraft carriers. This is when no one knew about Tic Tac.
Oh,
No one knew about Tic Tac until 2017. But he wrote this while just as he retired from CIA and put it all in there about this long-standing investigation and interest in UFOs and the higher consciousness aspect that sometimes we collect gifts when they're recovered. And he mentioned a crystal gift that the government has that, that when you connect with it, reveals like our past history.
wow.
So I mean, he wrote it all in there. And so,
What's the book called again?
Cryptos Conundrum.
Okay.
Hey, I'm glad you're recording this because we just got disconnected from YouTube there, Zinka, for some reason. So I mean, it's interesting they cut it off just as John was getting to the really good, juicy stuff there. So
I've been checking, so it must have been recent.
we lost the YouTube stream, but John, when you say like there's been some ship battling these UFOs, there must be a record of that, right? There must be some deep.
Yes, we're live on YouTube.
Oh no, it's okay. We'll go back to that. Wait, go back to that. No, it's okay. But let me just ask the question. And then when you say, can't the government petition the CIA for those Roswell records and just say, okay, we want to see them? I mean, I'm just saying there's stuff that's recorded behind the scenes that someone inside the government could petition, and that's not a national security threat. That's history. So.
Right, and internally, they probably do have access within that soda straw compartment.
But can't they ask for that publicly to be shared?
FOIA them, I guess. I don't know. I guess you can FOIA them. They may have moved them. I don't know. Because once Chase said, I saw them in the Historical Intelligence Collection, the HIC, that clued CIA into saying, oh, we need to go find them and hide them. So I don't know. I don't know if they're findable. I don't think they're owned by CIA. I think they're owned by the Air Force, and CIA acquired them.
Wow. Well, we can go on and on. I mean, this is so great. Definitely want to have you back, me and Zinka, and maybe we'll invite Jim to come on. We'll do a whole planned programming about inside the CIA. And I mean, I think it's great. I've never heard you talk about the higher intelligence aspect, but that is what's behind all this. And that's who we are. This is what I'm trying to put out. Like, we are connected to something bigger. And why are we being kept in the dark about who we really are? I mean, that's actually, to be blunt, a crime against humanity. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate that there are forces in the way that are stopping us from our evolutionary destiny, in a way, to be part of this greater community. So thank you.
And I would just say, like, we're doing this to ourselves. So the government doesn't run our lives. They're not the only ones we can count on. We have to come together and do this ourselves. We can all remote view. Alan, you're teaching it in classes. I can't wait to put it on LightNet. We're not victims. We're the heroes, and we're bringing this forward. And nobody can stop us. There's you know what I mean? Like, it's time. It's time. So we all have bodies, and we all have minds, and we all have mouths, and we all have emails, and we all have internet. So let's do this, let's do this.
Are you located out west, John? I mean,
I'm in Arizona. So I woke up very early this morning to catch that 6
We did too.
Yeah. I'm in Oro Valley, Arizona, which is just north of Tucson, but I believe about 14 miles north of Tucson.
Oh, great. So maybe if we do a conference up here, a disclosure conference, maybe next year, even Suzanne Ross, she's putting together a conference, we'll invite you for sure. But
yeah, this weekend, party at my house on Friday after.
Oh yeah, you can come up for that.
But anyway.
But even next year we'll plan. Well, definitely anytime, John. But yeah, I just want to give one more little plug for this series that I'm doing here, Making Contact Series.com. And it's going to be deep dive. What we heard today is just the kind of beginning steps of what I want to go into with Linda Moulton Howe, Whitley Strieber, Danny Sheehan, Nick Pope, Steve Bassett, who's a lobbyist for UFO disclosure, and some experiencers, Marina Seren, Adam Apollo, Mary Rodwell, who's been investigating the starseed aspect of this. So it's a multiple level phenomenon. This is not a simple, oh yeah, we're having visitors here. That famous Jacques Vallée line where he says, if I find out we're just having visitors from another planet, I'll be very disappointed, because there is a psychic phenomena, there's paranormal. Those are just words to describe another level of reality that we've been really kept from acknowledging. So this phenomena opens up a whole set of new worldviews and new aspects to the human mind. I say it makes us more human, this phenomena. So that's the excitement of where we're at. And today, you're right, Zinka, this was a kind of toe in the water.
Yes, it's to celebrate. This is all
Okay.
celebrations
I'm
on the
with you.
road to making this bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Great. No, this
We're
is
moving forward.
John, your work is so valuable. Your insights and just adding to the conversation. We need to hear this from people like you, because otherwise it's just our little community talking to each other and saying, "Oh yeah, I saw something and this happened." But this makes it almost official what you're adding here. So
Yeah. Thanks so much, John, for the work you've done in your life and who you are and who you've become, and your message to the world is so amazing. So
and
thanks.
there's more to talk about, and I do have a lot more questions, but it's been 3 hours now, so thank you.
Okay, guys.
I'm out of coffee.
And you're out of coffee.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you,
Thank
Zinka.
you for having me.
Of
Okay.
course. Major important input there. So, okay, Zinka, send me this recording when you get
Okay,
a
I
chance,
will.
and
I
I'll
will.
post the second part online, okay?
Okay, great.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. Thanks
Okay.
for joining us all if you're watching, and see you soon. Thank you everyone on the chat too. Okay.
Mwah.
Peace.